And this guy, I knew we would hear from him very quickly. Calling from a 610 area code. I'm going to get to you very quickly because I believe this is Mike from PA. And, well, you know what? How about this? Hold on. There you go. You called it.
Didn't I give you more credit than Sam, Mike?
You called it.
Did I not?
What do you mean more credit? I just gave you the credit.
No, yesterday. I was getting there. I actually did predict on Twitter Jones would win. And that was
that's not giving Mike credit. That's you giving yourself credit.
Oh, yeah, fuck, I got caught. No, but it was because of Mike that I give myself credit. Yeah.
But I wanted to commend your editorial decision the day after an R plus 28 seat is flipped to do an entire hour about Trump-Russia was just beautiful.
Well, I mean, that was... thank you. That was, we always like to counter program a little bit here at the Majority Report. No, I mean, it was... You were right. You had talked about the energy that was on the ground, or that you had heard about, and about the organization. Did you hear this story about the DNC pouring money in and having 30 paid staffers there?
Yeah, that was the thing that was amazing is Charles Barkley is right. You know, people know that the African American voters are going to turn out for Democrats, but the result of that is they don't organize them. They just kind of assume that they're going to pick up those votes. And that's a really bad strategy. You should be maximizing your base, and that's exactly what Doug Jones did. But if I could, I see a lot of baby's first exit poll analysis out there saying that it was African Americans that carried it for Doug Jones, which is, they were an important part of the coalition, but I don't think that's actually the real story of the race.
What do you think the real story of the race is?
So basically what happened is, remember, Alabama is basically home base of the evangelical movement in the United States. So when you see, 60% or 70% voting for Roy Moore, remember that last year they voted for Trump by 90%.
Right.
So what happened is there was all the white people who are not evangelical basically voted for Doug Jones. And you can see that there's a city, I think it's, let me pull it up here, I'm just looking at Madison in Alabama, which is very similar demographically to Pennsylvania. And it voted for Trump last year by 15 points. And this year voted for Doug Jones 56-40. And it's only 15% African American. It's in the northern tier of Alabama. And so what we saw was this coalition that, if this happens, if the same coalition that happened in Alabama happened in Pennsylvania, it would be 65-35
right.
for the Democrats. So this win was insane. But it was also, you could also see it coming if you know what to look for and you're competent at your job, which unfortunately very few political commentators are.
Sorry about that. What was it that we were looking for here in terms of, I mean, you made the point yesterday that the polling, there was polling that was more sophisticated had Jones up, but that polling had him up by 10 points, right?
Well, that was, okay, so there was about 3 polls that had Jones up. The Fox News poll was the outlier for Jones, which was +10, but there was a +3, and I believe a +5. And I think my final prediction was Jones +5, but that was kind of a little bit of just taking the difference of the polls I thought were decent. This was totally within that margin of error of the sophisticated polls. And so, yeah, I think that this result is exactly in line with what the polls actually showed that weren't garbage.
Now, here's the question. Here's the question. This dynamic, and Matt has put up a link and a screenshot of a Ron Brownstein column, which explains that Jones's victory, Jones did badly with white voters, except when compared to his Democratic predecessors, which is what your point is. I think he lost 56-40, which is actually a win in Alabama for a Democrat amongst white people. What is hard?
The nation at large, the average white person nationwide, if this kind of shift had happened, it would have shown the Democrat winning significantly among white voters. And if that happens, we're talking about like a 120-seat pickup in the House.
Now, that's
so I don't think that's going to happen because we're not going to have child molesters everywhere.
Well, that's my point.
The point
that's
is
my
that
point.
this was huge.
How much of that defection is a function of white voters, and I think probably Jones did better with white college graduate voters. How much of that win there was a function of like, hey, I want Alabama to be seen as being in the 21st century, not like electing a guy who everybody's like, well, back at the time, 14-year-old, 32-year-old, that's sort of the way it works. Who just said, like, I don't want Alabama to be seen as retrograde, and I don't want to elect a child predator to the office. Not to mention a guy who also is virulently anti-gay, which is out of step, obviously, with the times, who was kicked off the Supreme Court the other time because of his Ten Commandments stunt. I mean, so how much of that is going to translate to a race, let's say, in Pennsylvania?
So there's a bunch of questions there, but let me take it from the top. Basically, the evangelical vote, you can kind of see what white people are totally in the bubble where facts don't matter, and that's the evangelical white vote. They are unmovable, they're unpersuadable, there's nothing you can say, nothing that the Republican can do that's going to get rid of them. And even among them, though, Doug Jones saw a gain. I think it went from 90% to 80%. Sure. So 90% went for Trump, 80% went to Roy Moore. As far as yesterday, I said that the college-educated whites in Alabama voted for Trump. I think it was like 80-20. And we needed them to have a 20-point swing, and that's exactly what we got. 20-point swing for Doug Jones. So I think it was like 60-40 college-educated whites in Alabama for Doug Jones. But let's remember that those are very unusual. Alabama college-educated whites are a lot different than college-educated whites as a whole. So in Pennsylvania, where our evangelical population is very small, this would be, like I said, a 65-35. We're talking about picking up 5 or 6.
But my question is,
what percentage? Oh yeah, what percentage of that was the Roy Moore factor versus just conservative?
Right.
Yeah. So I think that if you look at, there's no real way to answer that with definitive scientific certainty.
Right.
That said, I think if you look at 2012, Roy Moore got 52% of the vote. This time around, Doug Jones got 50% of the vote. So that swing right there is about 5-6 points. You could probably say that it's somewhere between 5 and 10 points additionally, which is gigantic, by the way. There's very few things that swing partisan voters that much. And one of the other hints is the approval rating of the candidates at the exit polls. Roy Moore had a 41% approval rating, and that is pretty much the evangelical vote. So 41% of the voters was the hardcore would vote for Adolf Hitler, Mickey Mouse base. And Doug Jones had a 51% approval rating. So everyone who approved of Doug Jones pretty much voted for him. And so the answer to your question is probably between 5 and 10 points. So if it had been Luther Strange, Doug Jones probably gets, I would say, 46% of the vote.
Luther would have won. I called it. I predicted it.
But Doug Jones getting 46% of the vote against Luther Strange in Alabama, that's still you still see the sort of generic Donald Trump anti-Republican sentiment there is worth like what, 8 points maybe?
Yeah, it's devastating. I think that we've kind of reached a tipping point. And I don't know how much of it can be untangled from Roy Moore and the pedophile, because that message has been nationalized. That's why everybody cared about this. Like, a lot of people were deeply disturbed by the fact that Donald Trump and Roy Moore are sexual predators that are harming people. And normal people outnumber crazy partisan wackos in this country.
If you say so.
So that's well, I just think that it's tainting the entire Republican Party, and so it's hard to really disentangle every element of it because
right, of course,
Donald Trump is who he is,
of course,
and the Me Too movement is going on, and
of course,
people are rejecting this kind of behavior that used to be okay.
Well,
and by the way, the national media sucks. Like, keep talking to these people who say, I don't care that he's a child molester and the women are being paid. Like, are you fucking kidding me? That has nothing to do with anybody who's a actual reasonable voter. It's just this kind of hillbilly porn.
I don't know. She was a translator.
Well,
you credulous cocktard lib bitch.
Mike,
go talk to Nikki Haley.
Listen,
maybe she can do
I appreciate it. I give you all credit due. We do have to bump you though because we're going to talk to a Trump voter to see what they.
Some things.
What?
You owe me some plugs.
Yeah. What do you want? What do you want?
I have.
Yeah, please.
I have. Okay. Well, I'm giving it to you. I just picked up the race for a Senate district in Pennsylvania, which is against the Republican appropriations chair in the Senate. It's a D+5 seat for Allentown for a guy by the name of Mark Pinsley. So go to votemarkpinsley.com.
Wait, how do we spell this? Mark Pinsley?
Vote. P-I-N, I think it's S-L-E-Y.
Wait, you think? Oh, all right.
I know.
Mark, P-I-N. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Mark Pinsley. Okay, Mark Pinsley. Wait, is he an apple farmer?
Yep. No, he's not an apple farmer.
All right. Well, he's standing in an apple orchard, so I got all excited.
So it's huge. So if anybody could go on there, donate just anything for him. This is probably the most exciting race in all of Pennsylvania, the number one target. So this is the big deal. And he is like a super far left progressive. We're running on marijuana legalization, Medicare for all. We're taking over the party in Lehigh County, but we need everybody's help. And if someone donates just a little bit to Mark today, that could help change the course of the Democratic Party in all of Pennsylvania. So please, please, please check it out. Watch the video. This is one of my first produced videos.
Wow.
So
there it is. Pinsley
follow me on Twitter.
Did I see mentions of the ruling class on that website?
Yeah.
Wow.
Say again?
Do I see a mention of the ruling class on his website? Holy shit.
That's right.
And wait, say your Twitter handle.
Oh, now scroll back up. Now, what kind of apples do they grow? Is that an apple orchard? Because that doesn't look like an apple orchard to me. Now it looks like a peach. It looks like, I can't tell by the, it's totally overgrown. I'm going to need to see the back.
Yeah, I should have known you would ask me this.
Well, all right. Well, find out the answer. People, in the meantime, head over to votemarkpinsley.com. Mike from PA, thanks so much for calling in, buddy.
One more thing, and then I'll let you go.
All right.
Really?
If anybody wants to run for office in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, and you just want some free advice on how to get into it, just direct message me on Twitter. I will help you out.
Awesome.
And I will get you started off on the right foot, and you won't make
What's
the mistakes that new people make.
What's your handle?
All right, thank you so much.
Wait, Mike.
What is your handle?
Michael W. Beyer, B-E-Y-E-R.
There you go. And we'll retweet
All right,
it out.
Thanks so much,
Thanks,
guys.
bud. Appreciate the call. Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos